I think I'm taller than you by like an inch.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah, I'm tall, you're short. Aha, I can finally say that to people.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, short
I
bean.
just realized we want to
Next
be
art
this.
picture.
You want to be
Next
this.
art, ZZ is short, and I'm leaning on ZZ. You're what?
This is an interesting start to stream then. Talking about height and how I'm short!
Aha, short! I'm tall. And I'm playing with Salem because he wants to play with the ringy balls. Not changing that sentence. Yep.
Yeah, let's not continue that. I'm going to continue eating my jambalaya that I cooked this morning because I wanted some hot food. We're going to watch Yu-Gi-Oh! Because I haven't watched this one yet.
Woo!
I haven't watched this
Yugioh.
Yeah, we're going to farm YouTube content. Also an interesting way to start a stream. I know, right? I accidentally had the game's audio playing instead of having it muted. Panty is talking about how I'm short, which is true. It's normal. Normal way to start a stream. But we're gonna watch Yu-Gi-Oh! For some content for YouTube, and then I'm gonna make it into a YouTube clip.
Serenity, Tristan, and Duke versus Nezbitt.
Yu-Gi-Oh!
What team is better? The team forced to work together that contains a
Nezbitt's
decent,
got 5Ds.
an amateur, and a bad
Yay,
duelist,
no
or the
5Ds.
team of a single good duelist. Well, that is the dynamic of today's duel. Unfortunately, Serenity, who has never dueled before in her life, is forced into this 3v1, and due to her inexperience, she keeps misplaying. And as a result, she gets bullied by
I'm gonna hop
Nezbitt.
off
Now,
here
making it
and
sound
go
like
get
Serenity
something
is the
and take a
weakest
shower.
link, which she technically
Alright.
is,
Thank you,
but
thank you for having me.
Tristan
Have a
isn't
good
that much
night.
better. While he knows
Bye,
how to
baby.
play, he isn't actually a great duelist, and in fact spends the entire duel protecting Serenity from any harm. So, as you can imagine,
This man's a simp. You're protecting her? I mean, to be fair, she misplays, so I don't see a problem with that. But dog, you really gonna be protecting her even though she's misplayed the entire fucking duel?
this
Bruh.
duel is full of misplays, but surprisingly, not all of them are from Serenity. Quite a bit of them are from Nezbitt.
Wow.
Spoilers, Tristan sacrifices himself in the duel to keep Serenity alive.
Hold on.
Spoilers, Tristan sacrifices
Why the fuck do you yell Honda? Honda! That's not his name. His name's Tristan. Why are you yelling Honda? Think you mean Joey's sister? Maybe. I don't know. But like, why are you... Okay.
himself in the duel to keep Serenity alive. After this, Duke and Serenity go on to win the duel. However, that got me thinking, did this really have to be the case? With optimal plays, could the outcome of the duel have been changed? We won't know unless we jump into the duel.
Okay.
Before the duel begins, each player selects their deckmaster for this 3v1. Nezbitt chooses himself, Robotic Knight. Its deckmaster ability lets him quick effect send any number of machine type monsters from his hand to the grave to inflict 500 damage to the opponent for each machine type monster sent. Serenity
kinda
chooses Goddess with the Third Eye. Its deckmaster ability is you can discard one spell to perform a fusion summon. Tristan chooses Super Robo Yaru. Its deckmaster ability is when it battles, you can set one spell or trap.
Why? Hold on. I get that it's the early Yu-Gi-Oh cards. I get it. But like, a 6-star monster and you're rocking 1200 attack and 500 defense? That don't work, buddy. This day and age, you're gonna need some more shit than that.
From your hand, and if you do this, this card gains 1000 attack during that damage step. Finally, Duke chooses Strike Ninja. Its deckmaster ability is Quick Effect, discard 2 cards, activate one set spell or trap as if you are the controller. The rules of the 3v1 are a little bit different. Each duelist has their own field and life points. If a player is eliminated, their cards remain on the field. You can't strategize with your teammates, but something you can do is block any attack for a teammate with one of your monsters. This is quite unique, as tag duels typically you can only block direct attacks with your monster for a teammate, but being able to block any attack, it's an interesting ruling. And so with that, the duel begins and Serenity goes first. She draws, and her opening hand consists of Shadow Tamer, Witch of the Black Forest, Fire Princess, the Forgiving Maiden, Scroll of Bewitchment, and Bad Reaction to Samochi. Serenity immediately misplays by summoning her Shadow Tamer, a monster with terrible stats, into attack position. With no further plays, she ends her turn here. Right off the bat, if Serenity was pro Serenity, what could she have done different this turn to help out? Well,
I want to guess. I think, if I remember correctly, maybe, the card's effects. If I'm right, is you want to start with Witch of the Black Forest. Set her in defensive. Well, yeah, set her face down defensive position. Because if Nezbitt destroys it, if I'm correct, it has the effect that allows you to bring out, I think it's a level 3, 4. I think it's up to a level 4 dark monster. I think I might be wrong, but that might have helped her in the duel.
ideally, I would have liked her to build her deck a little bit better. She's got some wacky cards in here, which, I don't know, they never become useful throughout the duel, like Bad Reaction to Samochi and Scroll of Bewitchment. If she built her deck around those, it's fine, but she doesn't seem to have many of those cards. However, with the cards that she had, the best play she had here was to set her Forgiving Maiden with 2000 defense face down, or set Witch of the Black Forest face down, so that when it's destroyed, you could get another card when it goes to the grave. Saying all that though, I have seen people like Yugi summon some absolute terrible stat monsters into attack positions, so you can't really blame her that much. It's Tristan's turn, and he draws. His opening hand consists of Cyber Commander, Launcher Spider, Sangan Jin, the A Forces, Double Snare, and Garma Sword Oath. Tristan purposefully misplays by summoning his weak Cyber Commander into attack, hoping it will tempt Nezbitt into attacking him instead of Serenity. With no more plays, Tristan ends his turn. Now, Tristan's hand,
interesting.
It's actually pretty terrible, probably worse than Serenity's.
Yeah.
The only alternative play he had was to summon Commander into defense. With 2 high-level monsters, a ritual spell he can't use at the moment, and a terrible hyper-specific card. Why is he playing this card? This card's terrible, but with the cards he had, this is the best play that he had. It's Duke's turn, and he draws.
Come on, Duke,
His
have a good hand.
Consists of the 13th grade, Dimension Dice, and 4 Mysterious
Brother!
Summons the 13th grade into defense, and then ends his turn. Now, Tristan gets a little bit upset by this play. He doesn't like the fact that Duke isn't summoning his monster into attack to have a 1 in 3 chance that one of them two might get attacked instead of Serenity. Nezbitt seems gung-ho on eliminating Serenity, so I don't think it would have mattered anyway. However, while I do find it admirable that Tristan's trying to protect Serenity, sometimes a good offense is a better defense kind of thing.
Yeah.
Nano is in defense, and he won't do it on the next attack, but he can always throw his defense position monsters in front of these attacks to keep Serenity safe. But Duke needs monsters on the field to go for the attack. So there's got to be a bit of shared damage going around. So I understand that Duke playing, not really selfishly, but trying to go for the win immediately is fine. Someone's got to push for game. We can't all protect Serenity. Anyway, it's Nezbitt's turn, and he draws. His opening hand consists of Gigatech Wolf, Ground Attacker Bergoth, Cyber Falcon, Oni Tank T34, Machine King, and Ryoryoku Fields.
Wow, that's a lot of monsters.
For some insane reason, despite having a 1500 attack monster, 2 1400 attack monsters, he summons his 1200 attack Gigatech Wolf. He enters his battle phase and attacks and destroys Serenity's Shadow Tamer. Serenity takes the first damage of the duel. Nezbitt follows this play by activating his Deckmaster special ability. He sends 3 of his machine monsters in his hand to the grave.
Oh boy, that's a lot.
Bergoth, Cyber Falcon, and Oni Tank T34 to deal 500 damage for each. He splits the damage evenly to each opponent. Serenity, Tristan, and Duke each take 500 damage. Nezbitt ends his turn by setting Ryoryoku Field face down. Right, there's a few things on this turn. So, first of all, Tristan really wants to defend Serenity. Why didn't he just throw his monster in the way of Serenity to like tank that attack. You are allowed to do that in this duel. It would have been better if he summoned his monster into defense, then he could have done that in defense, but he didn't know that. We'll have that revealed later, but he could have just defended there. Also, Duke could have thrown his defense pushing monster in front of Serenity's monster, but again,
so
like I said
double
earlier,
misplay.
He needs to push the game. He needs to get some presence on the board, so I understand why he didn't do that. A bit of damage to Serenity. It's not going to kill her, not yet anyway, so it's fine. What I'm not impressed about is Nezbitt. What are you doing? You're supposed to be the best duelist here. Not summoning the strongest monster in his hand, well, that was a very wacky play. But I think spreading the damage of his Deckmaster ability is also
smart.
a misplay. What he should be doing is focusing on just one person. Personally, I would have gone for the strongest person. Literally that one round of plays, you can establish Serenity's the worst, Tristan's the second worst, Duke's the best. Probably go for Duke is probably the play I would be going for. Attack his monster, destroy it, deal 1500 damage to him. Or if you don't want to do that, attack into Serenity, do your attack damage, then do 1500 burn damage to her. She's literally life points on the brink already. Unless there's some reason why he can't focus damage onto one person in this duel that he doesn't mention, because he's always going to split it evenly between everyone. I don't know. This is going to be a misplay. He's going to permeate throughout the duel. He's not going to focus on anyone with his Deckmaster ability. And it doesn't seem to state you can't pick the same person 3 times, so I don't know. Weird. It's back to Serenity, and she draws a second copy of Shadow Tamer. Serenity, realizing the misplay she made on her first turn,
she's still misplayed
by summoning a monster with good defense points this time, which technically she does get right, as she summons the Forgiving Maiden with its impressive 2000 defense. However, unfortunately, she summons it in the wrong position. Tristan, having witnessed the fumble, she gets a replay. However, Nezbitt reminds everyone there are no take-backsies in a duel. And so Serenity ends her turn with a second huge misplay in a row. I just want to say, we make fun of people making misplays here, but no shade on Serenity. If you've never played the card game before, and like Yu-Gi-Oh is a hard game to get into, don't get me wrong. So it's not her fault that she doesn't know how to play. I mean, she's surrounded by people that plays. It's kind of the culture of their universe. So she probably could have made a little bit of an effort, but it's not her fault. It's fine. It's Tristan's turn, and he draws Block Attack. Hoping to fix Serenity's mistake, he activates it, attempting to switch her monster into defense. However, Nezbitt is having none of this, and activates his counter trap, Riryoku Field. This negates and destroys a spell that targets exactly one monster on the field. Block Attack is negated and destroyed. With no further plays, Tristan ends his turn. Tristan's hand is dead. We've established that.
There's nothing in his hand to use.
There is a play he could have done. Basically, he could have summoned his Deckmaster Super Robo Yaru to the field right here. Switch his Cyber Commander into attack. Attack Gigatech Wolf using his Deckmaster. Activate its ability to set a spell trap in his hand. Gain a 1000 attack point boost. Nezbitt would take 1000 damage, followed by a direct attack from Cyber Commander. Duke's turn, Nezbitt's field is wide open. He can summon his Yaranzo, switch 13th Grave to attack, and then summon his Deckmaster. Duke's Deckmaster, by the way, in the anime, has 2350 attack. If Nezbitt wants to bring himself out as Deckmaster with its measly 1800 defense, its highest stats, well, Duke can just destroy it with Strike Ninja, winning him the duel. So yeah, fun fact, Tristan could have been the catalyst for victory had he gone on the offensive instead of being so obsessed with protecting Serenity. Huge misplay, home team. You could have won the duel. It's Duke's turn.
And this is why we don't simp over the girls in Yu-Gi-Oh! Alright? This is why we don't do it. Because it makes you fumble. Note to point. Don't simp for the girls. Or the hot girl monsters. Either way, don't simp for them.
He draws Yaranzo. He summons it to the field into defense. He sets Dimension Dice face down and ends his turn. Now, despite what I just said on the last turn, Duke could have gone on the offensive here with his Yaranzo. By summoning it into attack instead, he could have destroyed Gigatech Wolf. By doing this, Nezbitt wouldn't have a tribute material for his Machine King on his next turn. Which, when things like this happen in old Yu-Gi-Oh duels, these normally snowball and the other team ends up winning if they're just taking a little bit more advantage early in the duel. However, in this case, we could win if we go for that game-winning play I mentioned on the last turn. Basically, we go round again. This time, Tristan gets out his Deckmaster. Duke's turn, not only do we get out the Deckmaster, but now we also get out Orgoth the Relentless. We'll have another monster on the field. I mean, that's pretty much guaranteed game right there, because we can destroy the Deckmaster or do enough damage to go for the win. It's Nezbitt's turn, and he draws Card of Sanctity. He tributes Gigatech Wolf to summon Machine King. Due to its effect, Machine King gains 100 attack for every machine-type monster on the field. Since there are 2, itself and Tristan's Cyber Commander, it gains 200 attack. Nezbitt enters his battle phase and uses Machine King to attack Serenity's Forgiving Maiden. Before the attack can collide, however, Tristan orders his Cyber Commander to intercept the attack. It is destroyed and Tristan takes a ton of damage. Duke scolds Tristan here, saying, why don't you let me throw one of my defense monsters in the way of Serenity? Then nobody would have taken any damage. However, due to Tristan's inexperience, he never even thought of this possibility. Which is a good point. Tristan should have switched his monster into defense, then he could have defended with his Cyber Commander in defense and not take any damage. But again, he probably just didn't know. Following the battle phase, Nezbitt activates Card of Sanctity. This allows all duelists to draw until they have 6 cards in their hands. Nezbitt, whose hand is empty, draws 6 new cards.
Oh boy.
He gets Cannon Soldier, Gradius Option, whatever machine type monster this is, Dimension Hole, Short Circuit, and Backup Soldier. Serenity draws 1 new card. She gets Marie the Fallen One. Tristan draws 2 new cards. He gets Rare Metal Soul and a Mysterious card. Duke draws 2 new cards as well. He gets Dark Assailant and Orgoth the Relentless.
Okay, that's how you get
Nezbitt
Orgoth.
activates his Deckmaster ability and discards the 3 new machine monsters in his hand. Serenity, Tristan, and Duke each take 500 damage. Nezbitt sets Backup Soldier face down and ends his turn. It's Serenity's turn, and she draws Lady Panther. Finally getting the swing of things, she summons it correctly into defense. Not only that, but she switches Forgiving Maiden into defense and ends her turn. Well done!
That's good!
It's Tristan's turn, and he draws Command Angel. He summons it into defense. Due to this card's effect, all fairy-type monsters gain 400 attack while it's on the field. Tristan ends his turn. I think here is a great time to ask, what is Tristan's deck? He's got a spell that supports warriors and spellcasters. He's got a monster that supports fairies. His Deckmaster and 2 of the cards he has are machines, and the only other one is a beast warrior. His deck, I'm gonna be honest with you, just seems really thrown together. There's no
It's
themes,
all over
no
the
strategy.
place.
I don't really get it. I'm just gonna have to chalk this up to Tristan's inexperience as well, but I'll be honest, he could have built a better deck for this duel. It's Duke's turn, and he draws Dimension Hole. He summons Dark Assailant into defense. With this monster, the home team has 5 defensive monsters on their fields. Duke notes how Nezbitt must have torn through all of the monsters in his deck by now, so he's not scared of his Deckmaster ability anymore. However, Nezbitt responds by activating his face-down Backup Soldier. Since there are 5 or more monsters in his grave, he can add back 3 non-effect monsters with 1500 or less attack. He adds back Gigatech Wolf, Cyber Falcon, and Ground Attack Bergoth. He immediately follows this up by activating his Deckmaster ability, discarding the 3 machines he just added. Serenity, Duke, and Tristan each take 500 damage. Note that had he focused all of his damage on Tristan here, dealt 1500 damage to him, well, Tristan would have been eliminated. Which had he done? Well, Tristan would never have had the chance to set his Rare Metal Soul, meaning Duke wouldn't be able to activate it later in the duel, meaning Serenity's monster would never get an attack boost and could never get over Nezbitt's monster, meaning Nezbitt would have won the duel. So at this point, I've got to say, unless there's some reason that Nezbitt can't focus damage on one monster that is never stated in this duel, well, he could have won the duel. Misplay Nezbitt. It's Nezbitt's turn, and he draws the continuous spell Clockwork Knight.
Oh no!
Now, thanks to this card, all monsters currently on the opponent's field become machine types. As well, they lose 500 attack. Machine monsters Nezbitt controls, however, gain 500 attack. Nezbitt follows this play by activating his short circuit, which switches all opponents' machine monsters into attack. And not only that, but until the end of the opponent's next turns, those monsters cannot change their battle positions, attack, or activate their effects. And so, Nezbitt, planning to eliminate Serenity, attacks her Forgiving Maiden. Since Tristan is unable to move any of his monsters on the field because they're frozen in place, Tristan is forced to master summon his Deckmaster. He brings Super Robo Yaru onto the field to intercept the attack. Since it is battling, Super Robo Yaru's Deckmaster ability activates. When it battles, he can set one spell trap from his hand to increase this monster's attack by 1000. Tristan sets Rare Metal Soul. Despite the 1000 attack increase, it's not enough. Super Robo Yaru is destroyed. Tristan's life points and Deckmaster are eliminated simultaneously, meaning he gets double KO'd. Tristan is eliminated from the duel. Nezbitt ends his turn. Worth mentioning, but for a split second, I actually thought that Tristan could have won the duel here. All he had to do was set Rare Metal Soul face down, and now when the battle occurs, he uses it to increase his monster's attack. Unfortunately, however, it would have 3200 attack, which is still less than Machine King's 3400.
But it still would have at least survived the turn.
So unfortunately, the point I need to make is Tristan, there was no way you could have turned this duel around with any better plays that you had, unfortunately. Very chivalrous, I'll give you that, Tristan. You kept Serenity alive, but still unlucky. It's Serenity's turn. Distraught and blaming herself for Tristan's defeat, she becomes unable to do anything. She doesn't even draw a card to start her turn. Duke and Nezbitt tried to convince her to start dueling, but they're no avail. So they actually just agree, should we just skip her turn? They're like, yeah, okay then, why not? Which, you can't do that in real life. You can't just not draw a card. You have the deck out and you just use, I just won't have a turn. You can do that indefinitely. So this is just a one-time thing that Nezbitt's going to do. She can have this one turn. If we get background and she doesn't want to play, she's eliminated. It's actually kind of a shame that she didn't want to play here, because if she was pro Serenity Wheeler, well, she actually does have a play. This is because she has all the materials here to make her St. Joan. She has a spell card in her hand she can discard to activate her Deckmaster Fusion ability. She has the material, she can make St. Joan. If Duke knows to use his Deckmaster ability on Tristan's set card, she can activate it to give St. Joan 4200 attack. Then St. Joan can attack and destroy Nezbitt's Machine King. I will say this play probably wouldn't have happened because, one, Serenity needs to have a flashback later in the duel to remember about fusion and tribute summoning, so that isn't an option, unfortunately. And two, Duke didn't get the idea to consider Tristan's face down until Yugi appeared and was just like, all three of you need to work together. Tristan's not here. Oh, wait a minute. So I think this play was more of a hindsight thing, but it is worth mentioning she could have done this. It's Duke's turn, and he draws Dice Dungeon. Duke does something a little bit wacky here that only makes sense if you know how the duel is going to end. He plays Dimension Hole, which lets him banish one of his monsters until the next standby phase. He banishes Dark Assailant. Now, with one less machine monster on the field, Machine King's attack drops by 100. Seems like little value to me. You're losing one potential extra attack on your opponent directly for your opponent's monster to have 100 less attack.
Interesting.
I agree with that. You'll find out why he does this later in the duel, but there's no way that Duke could have known that here, so I'll talk about it in a second. For now, Duke activates his field spell, Dice Dungeon. Now, with Dice Dungeon on the field, Duke is allowed to activate his set Dimension Dice by attributing 2 monsters he controls. By doing this, he can special summon an Orgoth the Relentless in his hand. He tributes Uranzo and the 13th Grave to summon it. Machine King's attack drops by a further 200. Duke enters his battle phase and orders Orgoth to attack Machine King. Now, since 2 monsters are battling, the effect of Duke's field spell, Dice Dungeon, activates. When 2 monsters battle, each player rolls a 6-sided die and applies the result to the monster battling. If the result is 1, your monster loses 1000 attack. If it's 2, it gains 1000 attack. If it's 3, your monster's attack becomes 0. If it's 4, your monster's attack becomes 2000. If it's 5, your monster's attack is halved. If it is 6, your monster's attack is doubled. Finally, if Duke has no monsters on his field, this field spell destroys itself. Duke rolls and gets a 6. Orgoth's attack is doubled. Nezbitt rolls and gets a 1. Machine King's attack is decreased by 1000.
Damn.
The battle ensues and Orgoth destroys Machine King. As the battle phase ends, Orgoth's attack returns to normal. Duke ends his turn. Yet again, it's worth mentioning, if Duke hadn't banished the monster on his field, could he attack for game, or could he have summoned his Deckmaster to attack directly with an extra attack to go for game, because his field is technically open now? The answer to that is yes, he could have won. All he needed to do was not Dimension Hole his monster, summon his Deckmaster to the field, attack with his Dark Assailant directly. Nezbitt can choose to bring his Deckmaster to the field if he wants to. We got to keep in mind that the field spell will make it so both players have to roll a die. There is 2 chances for Duke to destroy the opponent's monster. Yes, technically there is a chance that Duke could lose his Deckmaster, but it will be Deckmaster versus Deckmaster roll, and Duke has the advantage in stats. So I feel like it was a risk worth taking, but I'll let you all be the judge. It's Nezbitt's turn, and the penultimate turn of the duel. He draws and gets Recycling Plant. Nezbitt master summons himself to the field. He then activates Recycling Plant. Now, by banishing monsters from his field and grave, he can fusion summon a machine type monster. The fusion monster summoned can attack on the same turn it is summoned. Because remember, we've got hold over rulings from Battle City. Fusion monsters can't attack on the same turn they are summoned. Kaiba has a Deckmaster to circumvent this. That's how we know it's in effect during this thing. And it's worth noting that this will become important later, that's why I'm mentioning it now. Nezbitt banishes himself on the field and Machine King in the grave to summon Perfect Machine King. This card becomes his new Deckmaster. Due to Machine King's effect, it gains 500 attack for every machine monster on the field. Since there are 3 on the opponent's side of the field, including itself, plus the extra 500 from Clockwork Knight, it gains
buddy!
Nezbitt
That's more than fucking
battle phase
ultimate!
And attacks Orgoth the Relentless. Yet again, Dice Dungeon's effect activates. Nezbitt rolls and gets a 5. However, luckily for him, only its original attack was halved, so he doesn't lose too much attack. Duke rolls and unfortunately gets a 1. Orgoth loses 1000 attack. Perfect Machine King comes out the victor in the battle. Since Duke controls no monsters now, Dice Dungeon destroys itself. Perfect Machine King's attack returns to normal. Nezbitt ends his turn. It's Serenity's turn, and the final turn of the duel. Still racked with guilt, she is almost disqualified for inaction. However, after a pep talk from Duke and seeing Joey, she summons the courage to continue the fight. She draws and gets Magic Reflector. If you're just curious, by the way, what Serenity's hand is, she's got 7 cards in her hand at the end of this duel. She has Scroll of Bewitchment, Bad Reaction to Samochi, Shadow Tamer, Witch of the Black Forest, Fire Princess, Marie the Fallen One, and Magic Reflector. Serenity gets a flashback about Tristan teaching her Tribute Summoning and Fusion Summoning. Using this relearned knowledge, she sacrifices her Lady Panther to summon Marie the Fallen One. Machine King loses 500 attack since there is 1 less machine on the field. Serenity's Deckmaster, Goddess with a 3rd eye, pipes up here and tells her that, well, her Deckmaster ability lets her act as polymerization for monsters on the field as long as she discards a spell. Serenity uses her Deckmaster ability by discarding Magic Reflector. She fuses the Forgiving Maiden with Marie the Fallen One to fusion summon Sint Joan. Perfect Machine King loses another 500 attack points. Now, since there's a fairy type monster on the field, Tristan's Command Angel that is still on the field boosts Serenity's fairy type monster's attack by 400. However, with only 3200 attack, it's still not enough to get over Machine King. However, that's when Yugi mentions, all 3 of you need to work together. What do you mean all 3 of us? Tristan's dead, he's not in the, oh my goodness, there's a face down card in Tristan's field. I know what to do. Duke uses his Deckmaster ability by discarding 2 cards. He activates a set card on the field as if it was his own. He activates Tristan's set, Rare Metal Soul. He uses its effect, targeting Sint Joan.
Hell yeah!
Attack by
Teamwork!
With both monsters having 4200 attack, Serenity enters her battle phase and crashes it into Perfect Machine King. Both are destroyed. However, since Perfect Machine King was Nezbitt's Deckmaster, he loses the duel due to his Deckmaster being destroyed. Serenity and Duke win the duel.
Yippee!
I said, why did Duke banish his monster for only 100 attack point difference?
Yeah,
well,
wait, why?
If he hadn't have done that, then Serenity actually would have been able to destroy this monster here because Machine King would have 500 extra attack points. So it's very lucky that he did that all the way back then. I don't know how you justify it, but it's definitely the writers are like, oh god, he's got too much attack. Oh, he just uses Dimension Hole in his monster, he moves it from the field, that's fine. However, there is a more important question. How was Serenity's fusion summoned monster allowed to attack on the same turn it was fusion summoned? The only way this could be legal with the Battle City rules being applied to the virtual world arc is that Goddess with the Third Eye bestows the ability of quick attack to the monster it's summoned. It's not mentioned anywhere, but we could assume that. Nezbitt doesn't actually mention the quick attack thing when he plays his recycling plant, but it is written on the card in Japanese, just about. You can't actually see all the card. Alternatively, maybe this fusion
Tim,
summon
thank
is
you for
technically
the
like
follow.
a special summon.
Welcome to the Alchemist
you can
Circle.
actually attack with fusion
We're
summoned
finishing up some
monsters that
Yu-Gi-Oh,
were
and then we're gonna
special
play some
summoned,
Binding of
like from
Isaac.
Grave or something.
Welcome.
Fusion summon to get this. The
How are you
attack
doing?
surface. So it must be one of those two
Munchie!
things being applied, but
Hello!
nobody kicked off,
Thank you for the
nobody started
follow!
a fuss, so it must have
Welcome
been
to the Alchemist
fine.
Circle.
So yeah,
How
I
is
just
your
thought it's worth
morning?
mentioning, just in case somebody else does. Curious about the rules of the Deck Masters? Well, I have a video here that goes over all the rules.
Cynical, I will drink!
Check that out. Or if you want to help me get to 400,000 subscribers, we're so close. I'd love for you to subscribe, get updates on all the latest content. If not, no worries, I don't
Hi,
mind.
Tiff.
Regardless, thank you all for watching. Catch you later.
Yeah, I like TSG Anime for his analysis on Yu-Gi-Oh! Duels.